I'm happy to be here with you all today, and I've got a lot of information to cover, so if everyone's ready, I'd like to go ahead and jump right in. So first I'm going to give an overview of Dominion. If you live in Virginia, you likely know us best as Dominion Virginia Power. However, what you may not know is that we're an integrated energy company which operates throughout the U.S. This slide provides a snapshot of the myriad of energy resources and services we provide throughout the country. For example, we have natural gas generation facilities in Rhode Island and Pennsylvania, and we operate the largest nuclear power facility in New England. We are also a leading provider of natural gas transmission facilities with 7,800 miles of pipelines in 7 states. And we have a growing fleet of solar facilities, which consist of approximately 1,700 megawatts, either in operation or under construction in 8 states. We also directly serve millions of residential consumers and businesses. We are the regulated retail provider of natural gas service to 1.3 million customers in Ohio and West Virginia, and the regulated retail provider of electric service to approximately 2.5 million retail electric customers in Virginia and North Carolina. And we supply gas to an additional 1.1 million customers in 14 other states. So that lets you know kind of what we do across the country, and while we view our role here at Dominion Virginia Power as very important, that just gives you a flavor of our holdings across the country. Can everyone hear me okay? Hearing nothing, I guess you can, so I'm going to move on. Next, I want to talk about a couple of important attributes by which we measure our success. Having a history of Six Sigma at Dominion, we are very focused on excellence and continuous improvement. Since the focus of your organization is quality and continuous improvement, I wanted to begin my remarks by sharing some examples of how we at Dominion also focus every day on achieving excellence and continuous improvement. When Tom Farrell, our current CEO, took the helm several years ago, he established 4 core values: safety, ethics, excellence, and One Dominion. At Dominion, we believe that strong safety performance is the gateway to sustainable operational and financial excellence, and we want to continue to be an industry leader in this area. This slide demonstrates our laser focus on safety and our track record in this area. Every internal meeting we have at Dominion starts with a safety message, and safety is our #1 priority. Okay, moving on. This slide illustrates another key measure of success for us, our reliability performance. For our regulated electric utility operations in Virginia and North Carolina, making sure your lights come on every time you flip the switch is our reason for existence. SAIDI stands for System Average Interruption Duration Index. As noted on the slide, SAIDI measures the average annual number of minutes out per customer. Importantly, it's a metric that both we and our state regulators use to measure our performance. This is one of the most important measures of our performance, and it should be. Since we've been given the right to serve customers in our service territory, we should be held to the highest standards. We understand that this right to serve also comes with an obligation to serve each and every retail electric consumer in our territory, and to do continuous planning and make investments into long-lived infrastructure intended to operate for decades into the future to ensure we are equipped to serve current and any future customers for years to come. The regulatory compact mandates that we do so, and this is our core mission. In addition to making sure you have as much power you demand at every minute of every day, we're also obligated to minimize cost and to keep retail rates, what you pay, as reasonable as possible. In addition to making sure you have as much power as you demand every minute of every day, as I said, we're also obligated to minimize cost. While reliability is becoming more important every day as we adopt new and different electronic equipment in our homes, we're also seeing our relationship with our customers evolve beyond the basic needs of reliability and low cost. We're sensitive to the fact that many customers are motivated by factors such as sustainability and the environment, or simply have preferences for new technologies to meet their energy needs. So throughout the remainder of my talk, I'll discuss actions we're taking to respond to such factors and preferences through our growing portfolio of renewable energy. But first, I want to put things into context by talking about the overall mix of resources used to generate electricity. Before I talk about renewables specifically, I thought it would be helpful to talk about the universe of electric generation resources as a whole. You probably have heard people use the term megawatt when talking about electric generation. A megawatt is 1,000 watts. However, each resource has different characteristics with respect to its availability and our ability to control when it's available. So we can't really say that every megawatt is equal to every other megawatt. For example, nuclear generation has a capacity factor or availability of about 90%. Basically, nuclear is nearly a round-the-clock resource that generates zero carbon emissions and has very low fuel cost. However, it's not a resource that's easy to ramp up and down. Contrast that with solar, which also has the advantage of being zero carbon and free fuel, but it's only available on average about 25% of the time and only operates when the sun's shining, which means we can't dispatch it when needed. Wind's capacity factor is a bit higher on average at about 36%, but like solar, we can't call on it when needed. Still another resource, advanced combined cycle natural gas, has its own unique attributes as well. Natural gas is more easily rampable than nuclear, so we can dial it up and down or on and off when needed, making it a great resource to stabilize the grid as we bring on more renewables, including solar and wind, which can cause voltage and frequency fluctuations. Also, natural gas only produces about half the carbon as coal, thereby helping to reduce our emissions. On to the next slide. On to the next slide, I want to talk about another way in which generation resources are distinguished, and that's in terms of cost. As I mentioned earlier, one of our chief responsibilities is to minimize costs and keep retail rates as reasonable as possible. This slide provides the average levelized cost per megawatt hour for different types of electric generation. As with their operational characteristics, the cost of different resources also varies significantly. Take nuclear, for example. Nuclear facilities are relatively expensive to build, but conversely are relatively cheap to run. Most of the cost of nuclear come from actual facility and operations, whereas fuel costs comprise a relatively small portion of the cost. In contrast, natural gas facilities are cheaper to build, but fuel costs make up a larger share of the cost to operate natural gas facilities. With the abundance of shale gas, natural gas prices are relatively low, which has led to natural gas being the new benchmark fuel upon which the cost of all other resources are compared. In years past, natural gas facilities were used as peaker facilities. However, given the efficiency of new advanced combined cycle facilities, coupled with the abundance of affordable natural gas, these plants are now considered baseload resources. Capacity factor and dispatchability also play a role in cost. One of the reasons solar and wind are more expensive is that they generate power a lower proportion of the time on average than nuclear or combined cycle facilities. So in summary, looking at these past two slides, the main takeaway is that every generating resource has its own unique attributes, benefits, and challenges. There is no one silver bullet, and it would be foolish to rely too heavily on any one type of resource. That's why one of our core focus areas is maintaining fuel diversity. So continuing with the theme of fuel diversity, this slide displays the mix of resources in our generation fleet across the country. The pie chart on the left shows our capacity by fuel type. So this represents the capability of the installed resources in our fleet. The pie chart on the right displays our production by fuel type. This shows actually what percentage of the total production of electricity in 2015 was generated by each resource. Now I want to pivot to the central focus of today's talk, Dominion's strong and growing renewable energy portfolio. As you can see here, renewable energy is an increasingly important aspect of Dominion's diverse generation portfolio. Dominion's renewable assets include wind, hydro, wood-based biomass, and solar, either in operation or under development in 9 states. Dominion also purchases solar power under contract in Virginia and North Carolina. In total, this adds up to more than 2,168 megawatts in operation, under development, or under contract, and this amounts to roughly enough energy when operating at peak power to serve over 540,000 customers. The largest and most rapidly growing portion of our renewable portfolio is solar. We have approximately 733 megawatts of existing under construction or proposed solar energy projects across 8 states, including Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Indiana, Connecticut, Utah, and California. When operating at peak capacity, this produces enough electricity to serve approximately 180,000 customers. We began our foray into large-scale solar in 2013 and 2014 in states such as California, where economics such as higher retail electricity rates and renewables mandates created an environment where this higher cost resource made sense. Over the intervening period, solar costs have continued to decrease, while environmental regulations and customer preference for renewables have also continued to grow, thus making the time ripe for bringing large-scale solar resources home to Virginia. Speaking of Virginia, this slide provides more detail about our renewable facilities here at home. We currently have a petition before our state regulator, the Virginia SCC, to build 3 large-scale solar facilities in the Commonwealth to serve our retail customers. The 20-megawatt White House solar facility that you'll see on the map is located, or will be located, in Louisa, Virginia. The 17-megawatt Scott solar facility will be located in Powhatan County, and the 19-megawatt Woodland solar facility is planned for Isle of Wight County. All of these installations will utilize single-axis tracking technology and will be constructed on land previously used for farming or timber operations. If approved by the SCC, we anticipate that these facilities will enter commercial operations by the end of this year. You'll also note that we're developing an 80-megawatt solar facility in Accomack County on the eastern shore. On this slide, you'll see it's labeled the Amazon Solar Facility. And the electricity, obviously generated from this facility, given its name, will be dedicated to serving one of our largest corporate customers, an Amazon data center in Northern Virginia. The facility highlights the previously mentioned transition we're seeing, where customers who would normally be most concerned with lease cost are being motivated by other factors, such as corporate sustainability goals, to adopt solar even at potentially higher cost. We're also seeing the same evolution taking place in the governmental realm. The federal government has established mandates for renewable energy. So responding to the increased preference for renewables at the federal level, we acquired the Morgan's Corner Solar Facility located in North Carolina. You'll see it on the map in the the upper northeast corner of North Carolina. This facility is meant to meet, under long-term contract, the needs of Norfolk Naval Station's the needs of Naval Station Norfolk's energy and will provide approximately 6% of the station's needs over the long term. The Commonwealth of Virginia has also expressed a desire to increase the amount of energy it gets from solar. In December of 2015, Dominion and Governor McAuliffe announced a partnership to greatly increase solar energy in Virginia, with plans to deploy 110 megawatts of solar generation to serve Commonwealth agencies. Dominion will build up to 75% of the solar capacity, and third-party solar developers will develop 25%. We'll work with various state agencies to determine the location and size of the individual facilities, and the timeline and cost will be determined as individual projects are scoped. On a later slide, I'll talk more about the 20-megawatt Remington solar facility in Fauquier County that's under development. You'll see it up near the top of this map. The energy from this facility will be dedicated to serving the Commonwealth under a long-term agreement as part of an innovative public-private partnership. So now I want to discuss programs that facilitate customers' ability to generate their own electricity here in Virginia. Customers have several options for self-generation. Net metering allows customers with on-site renewable generation to receive full retail rate credit on their monthly utility bill for each kilowatt hour generated. The solar purchase program was facilitated by legislation several years ago to test structures other than net metering for self-generation compensation. Instead of a net bill credit as in net metering, the solar purchase program, under the solar purchase program, Dominion purchases the full output of a customer's on-site solar facility for 15 cents per kilowatt hour. This relatively high compensation level is only possible because it's funded by customers who voluntarily pay more each month to participate in our Green Power program to support renewable energy. Dominion's also the pilot utility for the state's third-party power purchase agreement program, which authorizes up to 50 megawatts of third-party power purchase agreements in Dominion's service territory. And the first such installation under this program is currently in operation at the University of Richmond. Finally, back in the 1970s, during the U.S. energy crisis, the federal government enacted the Public Utility Regulatory Policies Act to facilitate renewable energy and cogeneration by third parties. PURPA, as this is known, requires utilities to purchase the output of renewable facilities at market rates. This policy, along with other incentives in North Carolina, has led to Dominion agreeing to purchase over 400 megawatts of solar generation in our North Carolina service territory. Most of these systems are 5 megawatts or less in size. Dominion's also been active in promoting distributed solar projects, which are reflected on the renewables map I showed earlier. And a couple of these installations are shown on the current slide. These include the company's innovative solar partnership program, which has placed Dominion-owned solar facilities at colleges and universities such as Randolph-Macon in Ashland, Virginia, and Old Dominion in Norfolk, and at leading businesses such as Capital One in Chester and Prologis in Northern Virginia. This program has a strong research component to examine the system benefits of placing distributed solar on constrained circuits. Another customer program is Dominion's electric vehicle pilot program, and this is an example of how time of use pricing can incentivize customer behavior. Under the program, customers can choose a whole house time of use rate or an EV-only time of use rate. And as you see from the slide, pricing is lowest during evening hours and highest during peak hours. Through pricing signals, the program encourages customers to charge their EVs at night when energy use is generally lower, thereby avoiding strain that significant amounts of EV load could otherwise impose at peak periods of grid use. This is a pilot program, but utilities are increasingly moving toward more variable pricing options to drive customer behavior, to reduce impacts on the grid, encourage conservation, and save customers money. I wanted to make sure and mention efforts we're undertaking also in the area of innovation and research. When I spoke earlier to the map showing our renewable facilities, I mentioned the 20 megawatt Remington solar installation we're developing in Fauquier County. We currently have a petition before the SCC seeking approval to build this facility. What's unique about it is the public-private partnership that made it possible. As previously noted, the Commonwealth of Virginia is one of our largest customers, and so is Microsoft. In another example of listening to the voice of the customer, help bring these two customers together to support their preferences for more solar energy. We view this as a win-win for everyone. The Commonwealth was able to lock in a long-term agreement for solar at lower overall costs because Microsoft agreed to purchase the renewable energy attributes from the project to meet its sustainability goals. Okay, now I'm going to move to another research project, this one involving battery technology. We know that battery storage technology has the potential to be a game changer for the utility industry and for our customers. That's why we're partnering with Randolph-Macon College to study battery and solar integration. Randolph-Macon hosts one of our solar DG installations under the Solar Partnership, and we've also installed 2 emerging battery technologies at the college to understand how this technology interacts with and supports both solar generation and the grid. Our Microgrid project at Kitty Hawk also incorporates batteries and several other technologies. Over the last several years, we're seeing increasing interest in resilience, energy security, and renewables, and this has led to the concept of microgrids. A microgrid is a localized grouping of generation and load that can disconnect from the grid and function autonomously. Unfortunately, this isn't the best picture, but if you look closely, you can see 4 micro wind turbines, and below the vertical turbine in the forefront, you can see a small ground-mounted solar array. The project also incorporates fuel cells and a lithium battery. As you can see, we're evaluating numerous functionalities and learn and be prepared as microgrids become more prolific. This is a 3-year demonstration project, and we provide reports to the North Carolina Utilities Commission each year on what we're learning. So if you happen to be heading to the Outer Banks, you can actually stop by our district office in Kitty Hawk and see the microgrid firsthand. We also have a kiosk in the parking lot which displays a dashboard in real time of its generation output and other metrics. Okay, I want to transition now back to solar in Virginia. Another effort we're involved in to learn more about how to bring more solar to our region is the Solar Pathways Project. As part of its Sunshot initiative, the Department of Energy sought applications for projects to create replicable, multi-year strategies to spur significant solar deployment and drive down costs. In late 2014, Dominion and the partners shown on this slide were awarded over $2 million in federal funding for a 3-year project to help meet the Department of Energy's goals and to understand how to bring more solar to states with relatively low utility rates like Virginia. Dominion and its partners are contributing $610,000 in cost share under this project. And a key aspect of the project involves studies to understand better how to integrate solar without destabilizing the grid. So when I spoke with Norval about giving this presentation, he asked me to talk about our efforts to reduce emissions and improve air quality. So I'm going to take a minute to discuss Dominion's efforts in this arena. We will continue to see improved environmental benefits as our natural gas facilities and solar projects become operational, but I wanted to emphasize the fact that we've already made significant strides in improving air quality over the past several years. Dominion was the first utility to publicly support passage of Clean Air Act amendments in 1990, the first major legislation to address acid rain. In 1994 and again in 2002, Dominion installed environmental controls at its largest utility coal station, well ahead of compliance deadlines, bringing air quality improvements to Shenandoah National Park and other wilderness areas. In 2003, we spent $400 million to convert 2 Northern Virginia coal facilities to natural gas and to build a high-efficiency gas-fired unit in partnership with the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality to reduce regional ozone levels and help federal air quality standards. That same year, we signed a historic 10-year, $1.2 billion emissions reduction agreement with the U.S. EPA, the most ambitious environmental commitment ever made by a Virginia corporation at that time. And since 2000, we have closed, sold, or converted 12 coal-fired units across our fleet of electric generating facilities, greatly reducing greenhouse gas and other emissions. Turning to the topic of carbon specifically, the EPA's issuance of the Clean Power Plan, which seeks to reduce carbon emissions by 32% over 2005 levels by 2030, has drawn renewed attention to climate change in the energy sector. However, the strides the industry has taken already to reduce carbon don't get the attention they deserve. As this slide demonstrates, from 2000 to 2014, we reduced total equivalent carbon dioxide emissions of our generating fleet, which includes carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide emissions, by more than 37%. Over the same period, we've lowered our carbon intensity rate, which is the average carbon emissions rate per unit of electric output, by about 28%. As reported in the 2015 Environmental Air Emissions Benchmark Report published by M.J. Bradley and Associates, Dominion continues to produce fewer carbon emissions per unit of energy than almost 3/4 of the nation's 100 largest power producers. So while carbon reductions will continue to decline as we bring on more natural gas and renewable facilities, I want everyone to know that we've already been working diligently over many years toward cleaner air and addressing climate change. Okay, we're almost done, but I don't want to leave you without talking about what we're doing to make sure we can meet customer needs for the long term. You've heard a lot in the last hour or so that I've been speaking about what we're doing to bring more renewable generation, innovative partnerships, and new technologies to serve our customers better. I hope this emphasizes that we're continuing our Six Sigma legacy of continual improvement. But I believe one of the efforts that best illustrates our commitment to continual improvement is the annual integrated resource planning process we undertake to evaluate combinations of resources to position ourselves to meet your needs reliably, affordably, and sustainably into the future. While it's important to note that this is a planning process and not an authorization or commitment to build specific resources, it's an essential process involving detailed modeling and data analysis to help us understand options for meeting future customer needs for the long term. The Integrated Resource Plan requires us annually to look 25 years into the future and recommend options for adjusting our course based on what we know about the current status of things and future circumstances, such as customer growth, environmental regulations, and new technologies. This is filed publicly, so both our regulators and customers can take part in the public evaluation of the plan. Each year's IRP, as this is known, is unique and reflects any policy changes, technology changes, and evolving customer needs. A pivotal factor in the 2016 IRP involves the EPA's Clean Power Plan. This is probably the most significant environmental regulation in our lifetime. It's currently on hold pending outcome in the courts. However, regardless of what happens, we believe that a carbon reduction mandate of some form will ultimately become a reality. Relevant to our discussion today, and as discussed earlier, while cost and fuel diversity are certainly a key consideration in determining our future mix of resources, our modeling in the 2016 IRP reflects the need for significant amounts of solar in the future. So thanks for your time today. I know I packed a lot in, but I look forward to any questions.
All right, so thanks very much, Sarah. We're going to go ahead and open up the mics and see if anybody has any questions. Does anybody have any questions for Sarah? So Sarah, it looks like we have a question in the chat window. It's from Emily Sargent. Can you discuss the annual planning process, challenges or suggestions?
I think probably just to help you understand how the process works, we look at both the demand we have, so what our customer load growth is going to look like, and the supply mix we currently have, so the resources we have currently to serve customers. And then we have to look 25 years into the future to determine what we're going to need at that time, and basically optimize the mix of resources and include any new resources we think are going to be needed. And so it really is a challenging process. And what everybody needs to know is that it's a snapshot in time. We look at this every year with a different lens based on what we know that's occurred in history and what we know into the future. So really, it's one of the most challenging processes we have, because everyone knows that in reality, you give it your best guess, but you can't know what's going to happen in the future. We use a modeling process that takes all the resources we currently have and what we'll need in the future and puts them into this very complex algorithm and kind of spits out the best mix, suggesting what we should do in the future. But as with this year's IRP, we have certain policy events or other new technologies or other environmental regulations that drive the focus. So this year, our planning process really was driven by what we'll need under the Clean Power Plan. And if folks want more information on the IRP or to view a copy of it, it's available on our website.
Great. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, Sarah, it looks like we don't have any more questions from the audience. So on behalf of Section 1108, we'd like to thank you for your presentation. It was really informative, and I learned a lot. So.
Well, great. We're happy to stay, and you know, if you have any questions in the future, feel free. Norval has my my contact information, and happy to pass along any questions you may have.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You all have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.